Day 93 solution. Let's get started. And the first thing I need are my Spotify credentials for my secrets. So I'm going to add my secrets in, and I'm going to bring in client ID, which you remember is over here in your dashboard. Go into your app. There's my client ID. As well as that, client secret. That's hidden away. So we need to copy that. There we go. You can bring your secrets then over to the left a little bit and dismiss your sidebar. Because I'm going to bring those in. Let's import OS, which we need for the secrets to work, and let's set them. I'm going to call it client ID and client secret. And I've got my standard Flask app there. Remember, it's just Python behind the scenes. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to, for the moment, turn off all this stuff here so that it doesn't, when I click run, it's not going to open up the web view or anything like that. So I can just get on with my connections and all that. And then I'll uncomment this later on. The way I've hidden that, by the way, is I highlighted it and just put the 3 commas. And I've just put the three quotes on it to turn it into a piece of text that'll just get ignored. I also need to bring in a few more libraries up here. So I'm going to bring in request as well, because I'm going to need to deal with a post command. So I'm going to bring in requests as well, because I'm going to need to deal with a post command. And this is different from requests, which I'll be bringing in as well, which gets a little bit confusing. I'm just going to bring in JSON. I'm going to bring in my authorization code. And I'm also going to sneakily bring in RepLDB, because I'm going to use that for the offset later for the extra marks. But let's start by connecting everything up and make sure that works. So the URL is, and we'll go and get that, so I'm not mistyping it. There we go. And my data is going to be grant_type, and I need it to be client credentials. Do you remember, just pulls the data in from that and set the type of authentication, HTTP basic auth, which is what I brought in. And the arguments here are going to be the client ID and the client secret, which I put all in capital letters for some reason, but it's okay, I don't need it after this point. Next job is to send that off to Spotify and get back that access token, and we'll just check it's working initially, and then once that's working, we can start building the rest of the program. And this is the way I'd always write this sort of stuff. Honestly, once you've written this once, this is a good thing to put into one of those libraries that you keep in just a file. Well, we did that a while ago now, making a separate file and putting your own subroutines in there. But like a connect to Spotify subroutine is always quite handy to have if you want that. So our data is going to be the data, and our authentication is going to be the authentication. I use the same variable names here as the command names just to make it easier to remember when I'm building these things. Our next job is to print out, let's do response.json and check that works. What do we get? We are getting the access token, so that's fantastic. So I don't need to print that out anymore. I can just take the access token and I can make it, and I can extract it from the response with .json, and then it's just a dictionary. So I can go in here and say access_token. So that completely extracts the access token for me. Okay, then I need a few bits and pieces. Let's build our headers. That F string, remember, it was bearer, and then a space and the access token. That's why an F string is handy there. I can reuse URL now. And now I need to build a Spotify search query that looks for a certain year. So I'm going to go back to my console. I'm going to go to search. Go to a get there. Remember, I need that address in a moment. I've still got my authorization token from last time. So let's have a look. I'm going to check the API reference. It looks like I can search for year. So that should be quite good. So I'm going to say year equals, and let's go for 1990 to start with. A type, I want tracks. Limit, I'm just going to go for 10 at a time. And you'll see we've got an offset value here. So I'm going to start my offset at 0 because I'll need that later on. Let's click try it and see what we get back. Well, it's worked. We've got back a bunch of stuff there. So let's pull that data in. Let's pull that stuff in. That's our URL. And our search is going to be the stuff that comes after the word search. It goes all the way to the quotes there. Now what I'm also going to do is I'm going to set my year by default to be 1990 there. And I'm going to turn this into an F string so that I can include, instead of having to type the year, I can bring that in from a variable. Offset there, let's make a variable for that and bring that in with an F string as well. Remember, offset is just saying, like, if you ask for 10 tracks, you'll always get the same 10 tracks. But if you say, give me 10 tracks, offset them by 10, you'll get the next 10 tracks. Offset them by 20, you'll get the next 10 tracks, and so on and so on. And that's the point of what we're doing here. So after constructing the URL, I need to send that off. Right, our full URL is going to be the URL followed by the search. I'm going to print that out to check that looks okay before we progress. Make sure my F strings have worked fine. Okay. Oh, so I've called it offs instead of offset there, which is always a little bit of a problem if you can't type properly. That looks good to me. Okay, so instead of doing that now, let's send that off to Spotify and get that back. So response equals requests dot get full URL, and we also need to send our headers, which are authorization codes, with that. Data equals response.json. Print data. And let's see what we get. Oh, we're getting an error. No token provided. So where's my access token gone then? Access token's here. It's in the header. It's header equals headers here. So it should be okay. So where have I gone wrong then? Oh, I've spelt authorization in the British way. There you go, we're getting the data now. So we're actually pulling that through. And I'm going to use the same loop that I used previously. I'm going to pull in the tracks themselves. So for tracks, that's a fro. For tracks, for track in tracks. It's not tracks, is it? What am I talking about? Data. Tracks. And it was, remember, items. Items are the individual tracks that we had there. Let's print out. Let's go for. Let's print out. Let's make an F string. Let's do the. I'm going to use the 3 quotes trick just to make sure that I can put in whatever I want into here. So I'm going to be doing track. I'm going to say who it's by. Now this one's a bit weird because if you see where the artists are, it always brings in a list. So I'm going to go for the first artist in the list and bring in their name. And that's a bit of a weird one there. So you don't need to have done that if you don't want to. And then I'm going to print out the preview URL as well. So I'll need that in a bit to go and stick that in something meaningful. So let's see if that works. Okay, yeah, so we're getting names, we're getting links, and if we click one, seems to be working okay. Now, next job is to turn that into something meaningful that's going to work with Flask. So let's start simply in Flask by uncommenting this stuff here and starting by making our first page. So, our page is going to be blank and return the page. Now, I think what we need to do is build a form. So let's bring our file browser up, make a form.html. And what's that's going to look like? Well, that, I mean, we could build the entire page here, quite honestly, couldn't we? So let's build a page. Let's build a head. Let's put a title in there that's something like Tracks of My Years. And let's build the body then. I'm going to put a title in. So H1, Tracks of My Years. And then I'm going to put in a form. I'm going to post. I'm going to post to ourselves. No? I'm going to post to, yeah, I'm going to post to ourselves. So we'll be able to put a different method on this page, build another definition for this page. That's what's going to happen if we post to ourselves, because then we're not making it too complicated. So let me close the form. Now in that form, I have a p tag. I'm going to have year. And within that, I'm going to have my input box. Type is text. Actually, it's going to be a number, isn't it? Number minimum equals, let's see, 1900. Max equals, say, 2022, because that's the current year. Name equals, let's call it year. And then we'll also put next to that then a button. Type equals submit. And then what's going to be on the button? It's going to be go. Okay, that looks like a reasonable page to me. I'm going to do two things. I'm going to set a value here. And I'm going to use like an F string to put a value in there. And after the form, I'm going to have an F string basically to have the songs. But that involves me building one other thing, because I've got a couple of songs. If I run the code at the moment, it's going to give me 5 songs as well as their URLs. So I need to do something a little bit different. So I'm going to build another HTML page called song. And all that's going to be is it's going to be a H2 with the name. And then I'm going to bring in that code down below to bring in the audio. And we can get this code quite easily from elsewhere. I'm going to put in a BR, which is a blank row, bring in my audio control. In my source there, I'm just going to put URL. And then let's put an HR, a line between each one. So I'm going to make one of these for each of the songs. And I'm then going to put that in there, as well as the current year that we're working on in the box. And we'll go from there, I think. Put some speech marks around there so I don't break that. So F equals open, form.html, page equals f.read, f.close to close that. Then what we want to do is bring in then, actually we're not going to start with anything there, are we? We're going to, let's just do a quick replacement. So we'll do page equals page.replace, replace songs with nothing, because it's the first load of the page. And we'll copy that exact same thing again, and we'll set the default year to be 1990. So let's run it and see what we get. Have I broken anything? Well, it looks good so far. We've got a little spinner there. Didn't start off with a decent number though, so what's wrong there? Right. So we called it value, not year. So let's go back into here. It was value, not year. Here we go. So 1990 is the default, and we can go up and down. If I click go, it'll say method not allowed because I haven't written that page yet. So let's write the app root for /, which is the base one, but where the methods are post. Let's call this one change. And we're going to need all the same code from down here, but with a few slight differences. So what we're going to do is we're going to need to call this. So we need to make this a subroutine, don't we? So let's turn that entire thing into a subroutine. Get tracks maybe. And instead of just printing it out, let's do f equals open. Let's open songs.html in read mode. I didn't pick the mode for that, did I? That was a bit dangerous. The default mode is read, but you never know. Something could change. So let's call it, let's do songs is blank. Songs equals f.read, f.close. So for each one, we'll do track equals songs. Let's do list songs. Make that blank. That's going to be our list of songs. So track is going to be a copy of songs. Instead of printing that out, I'm going to do track equals track.replace. We'll replace, I think we called it name, with that f string. And something's gone a bit weird in there, but we'll have a look what it is there. Oh, there we go. Put that on there. So let's just check in songs. What have I got? I've got name and I've got URL that I need to sort out. So name is there, URL is down here. So let's do that exact same thing again. Copy that. Paste that, replacing URL with that. Once we're done, we're doing list songs plus equals track. And then let's return track. No, list songs. There we go. So calling this now, which is called get tracks, will return all our songs. So let's do that here. Songs equals get track. Oh, but we need to give it a year, don't we? We need to set that value. So I can get rid of this one here. And I can put year as an argument in there. Okay, so where do I get that year from then? Well, I need to pull it in from this, don't I? So year equals request singular dot form year. So now I should be able to push that through, but we probably also want an offset of some kind. Well, let's just check this works first, is it? And we're replacing songs with that, which is a variable, and that's going to be year there. So let's stop, let's run this. Remember, this might not work properly in the small viewer, so pop it out in a new one. Let's try it. Go. Okay, bit of an issue. Let's see what the error we got was. Get track is not defined. Sure, I've called it get tracks. The simple problems, see, the simple problems are what cause the issue. Try again. Pull this up here. Go. Error. What was the error? String indices must be integers. What we got here then? Line 37 is causing a problem, which is this. Okay, let's take out this second part, because that one was causing an issue. Okay. Let's put that back to what it was before I started doing this. Ah, I've got track and track. Misusing the variables. Let's call that one. Okay, try that again. I was overwriting the variable there, and we've seen that error before. Aha, here we go. So now, if I change the year, amazing. So we can actually pick 10 now. The problem is though, if I go back to 1984 and I go back to 1985, same songs. So let's make that offset. And I think the easiest way to do this is with RepLDB. So I'm going to go into the subroutine for this offset and pull up our database. So I'm going to pull it up just on the side there. I'm going to just do this. I'll set offset as 0. Try. Get a keys value. I'll just do offset equals that. So basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to go into my database and I'm going to see if I've got a key for the year. If I haven't, it's going to break. But if I have, I need to do db year plus equals 10, add 10 to it, put it back in there. If that breaks because it can't load a year, there's no key value, then instead I'm going to do db year equals 10. Start it off, and we'll leave offset as 0. So let's see what that does to the main program now. So 1990, first track was Thunderstruck. Oh yes. So we're going to get a different 10 every time. But this will keep going forever. We said we wanted to reset it about 100, didn't we? If offset is greater than 200, db year equals 0. So restart it at 0. And that should then allow us to keep going and eventually get back to the first one. So and there we are. We're looping through them now. So we've got that loop working. We've got a completed solution. Nice one.